the Masters, Monarch, and shrinking. This is TV Plus Talk on MacVoices.
Hello and welcome to TV Plus Talk. I'm Charlotte Henry. He is Chuck Joyner. How are you doing, Chuck?
Charlotte, I'm great. I'm a little tired because I was kind of charged up after the Masters, but other than that, I'm doing good.
Sorry, you're tired. I had to stay up till past midnight to watch the end.
I'm not going to argue whether you were emotionally involved or not, but I definitely was. It's one of those events that does that to you.
Yeah, but I'm not going to get into the politics of this because it will get complicated, but Rory McIlroy is British. He's from, Great Britain and Northern Ireland. He's from the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and he is, he deserved to win it. It was exciting because it was up and down, and he survived the challengers, and this is his second green jacket in a row, which is no small feat by any means. So congratulations to Rory.
Amazing.
Congratulations to you as a country person.
Sort of. We're going to get into all sorts of political mess if someone from England and London claims someone from Northern Ireland. We don't want to have that debate, I promise you.
Okay,
but it was
I'll just say, just congratulations, Rory. How's that?
Yeah, I think that's right. But it was wonderful. There's lots of reasons I want to discuss it with you, mostly because it was fun. But you told me that in the US, it was all streamed, the tournament, on Amazon Prime Video. It wasn't on network TV or anything, was it? Or cable?
Oh no, it was absolutely on network TV. Just it started a little bit earlier on Amazon.
Oh.
But also the Masters has an amazing app that I'm sorry we didn't talk about ahead of time, but they have multiple streams running. Some that are only available in the app. So that like Amen Corner or the featured groups or certain holes. So really the best experience is through the Masters app, but they also, one of those channels is the broadcast, which is hosted by CBS here. It's just that all the other channels are running a lot earlier in the day. This year, Amazon grabbed part of that earlier broadcast and had it, don't hold me to it, I think on which day, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. or 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., so that you started to get just a little bit earlier look if you had Amazon Prime.
Interesting. And I bring this up because inevitably now we have to talk about Apple TV and sports rights. And I always wonder if this is the kind of event Apple could throw some money at.
I would love to see them throw some money at it. And frankly, I was kind of surprised to see Amazon have it become available. So I don't think that anyone would. This is dangerous to speak for Augusta National, but I think they're open to everything because they have been early adopters in so many ways of so much technology, in spite of such a reputation for being, very, very conservative in so many other ways, just like the app. But the one thing that I don't know, it would be interesting to see between Augusta National and Apple, because both of them love to have control. And so there would have to be some serious negotiations before.
Can you imagine?
Because Augusta has just some very, very specific ideas about how they wish to be represented.
Yeah, I'd love to see those kind of negotiations. I'd love to report on those. It just seems, because the streamers do tend to be interested in one-off events. Netflix in particular has been interested in that. And I just wonder if this is the kind of event Apple, high prestige event that Apple could drive some, throw some money at the rights, maybe link up with that app you're talking about. It would be a really interesting experiment. I'd love to see. I don't know how long Amazon has these rights for, but just one to watch from my perspective, because I'm always fascinated with these prestige events and what Apple's role in the future of them might be.
I, Charlotte, I have not done any research on this, but
No, please, we
Augusta,
don't do research on this show, Chuck. Come on.
Augusta is the pinnacle, but there are a number of other very high profile events, both in the U.S. and outside. The British Open, of course, comes to mind right away. Now, the Golf Channel in the U.S. does a fairly decent job of trying to grab some of that some of the other networks don't pick up. I would love to see Apple get involved with some of this and do, enhance the coverage. Maybe not steal it the whole way from broadcast, but enhance it just like Augusta did this year with Amazon, so that you get more, as opposed to just having to wait for the broadcast to come on.
And pick the groups that you want. Yeah, I mean, it would be fascinating to see. And I will, I end by saying, well, first of all, we're both tired because it was very exciting. Second, I have to ask you as we finish up this little section, have you seen the new Nike advert that came out within minutes of McIlroy winning?
I did. So,
I mean, genius. I'll include a link to it in the show notes because it is genius.
Well, and look, you and I both know that somewhere buried deep is that version that we saw with Rory. There's somewhere buried deep with a version of Scotty, because he was right there on the heels. Probably any of the major leaders going into the last day had ads prepped. So that's just the way Nike does it.
Something particularly brilliant about Nike doing, because I mean, the payoff line in the ad is, golfers, what is it? Brilliant golfers, elite golfers don't want one green jacket, they want another.
Yeah.
I think I butchered the line, but I've got the last bit right. Anyway, so it was particularly brilliant for him as a back-to-back winner, and it appeared across social media instantly. Just a couple of other loose odds and ends before we get into our debate. I'll prep listeners for it in a minute. Apple TV has received 3 news and documentary Emmy nominations for the 6-part Vietnam documentary series, which is interesting. I think this goes into our recurring topic, Chuck, of high quality programming that kind of disappears within Apple TV and people don't know about. But I think Apple TV has always really from the start been pretty good at that documentary kind of work. It's got 3 nominations, as I say, for this. It's narrated by Ethan Hawke, this 6-parter. And I think it's kind of interesting, again, that this is the kind of recognition these shows get. I bet if you asked a load of people on the street, they'd never heard of it.
I'm not on the street, and I never heard of it until I saw that article. And it's like, a documentary about what? I would definitely want to watch this. I have not had the chance to, because I only became aware of it with that article that you're referencing. So it's now on my watch list, but I don't know how this goes back to discussions we've had. I don't know how or what Apple needs to do to get this out there. Do they need to create a mailing list? Is there a mailing list I'm not on? Since I'm subscribed to Apple TV.
I can tell you there isn't.
Yeah, I haven't found it. So I don't know what channels, sorry for the pun, that you would use to promote something like this. But it just seems like this is a story we've covered multiple times in multiple instances. In fact, I don't think I sent you this article, but there was an entertainment-oriented website that was gushing about The Gorge and how The Gorge went, pretty much the movie that was Apple TV went almost unnoticed when it came out, and it slowly built up this amazing following. And we talked about it, shortly after it came out, because I happened across it and thought it was great. But yeah, you really have to almost be working and just randomly looking to see what's new to find some of this stuff.
Yeah. Again, there's 2 recurring themes, isn't it? One, you have to work too hard to find stuff on Apple TV, unless it's one of the big 3 or 4 series. And secondly, the work on Apple TV keeps getting critical acclaim. It just does. Whether it's nominations, whether it's wins of these awards, it does keep getting acclaim for its work. Anyway, that's one to watch out. Another recurring thing that you and I often touch on is the popularity and success of sci-fi, of which you're more of a fan than I, on Apple TV. So I suspect you'll be pleased to know that Dark Matter is coming back for a second season in August.
If you the Dark Matter was brilliant. If you didn't see it the first time, go back, and I definitely don't want to do any spoilers, but pick up season 1 or watch season 1 ASAP in preparation. But it's one of those that I like, that when you first watch it, you're not quite sure what's going on, and that's a sure way to hook me. I want to understand what just happened, because it seems so strange. And I was delighted to see. I was really worried about it because they did one of these brilliant endings of season 1 where it could have stopped there, but it also left the door wide open to continue. And I'm delighted to see it's continuing.
It is. It's coming back. That's August 28th. You'll get season 2 of Dark Matter. So plenty of time to dive into season 1 if you didn't get a chance to originally. Okay. Let me just give some readers some background and some context, some listeners and viewers some context. I logged on to record this show, all looking forward to speaking to Chuck, maybe discussing the golf off air, chatting about what we'd watched in the week. We always get to say hello, and it's really nice. Chuck looks deadpan down his camera and goes, "Charlotte, I'm sorry to tell you this might be the last TV Plus talk." Cue panic from me. Because obviously I love doing the show with Chuck. I want to continue. He then tells me this because I'm not going to be happy with what he has to say about shrinking. So go on, Chuck. What do you have to say about shrinking?
Okay, well, let's do this first. Let's be sure that everyone understands that what we're about to do is spoilers. So if you haven't seen the whole series,
there's no way to do this conversation without doing it.
Yeah. So if not, then stop now. We'll say goodbye. Hope to see you next time after you finish shrinking, when you can come back and listen to this.
What seasons of shrinking are you spoiling?
The third, the most recent, which I think is 3 or 4. Maybe that's embarrassing.
Oh, hang on. You've gone from the beginning?
Yes, I've watched seasons that. Yes, I'm referring only to the current season.
Okay, go on.
Have you seen the whole thing?
I haven't gone through the whole thing yet, but that's okay. I want to know your opinion on the show as a whole, because I thought I'd got you hooked into it. Okay,
so then in that case, I will temper some of my comments. But I was really looking forward to it, and the episode 1 of the current season was an extra length. It was an hour long. And I think that might have been the problem, because that first episode and the next couple seemed almost just a vehicle for a bunch of one-liners. And yes, it set the season up, but it was a little too much, a little too overdone. Now, I will say this, and this doesn't spoil anything for anyone. They did rescue the overall season by the end, so that, because I honestly, partway through, I was ready to say, this is all getting a little too cutesy, and it's just a little much.
Well, it's always been cutesy, Chuck. That's the vibe. It's Bill Lawrence.
Yeah, but it was you can do cutesy well, which they've done up to this point, and just that this first episode of this season was, just for my taste, just too much. But again, it leveled out in the end, and I was happy, and I would look forward to another season of it. But I just hope that they can dial back. I'm sorry.
I think there is a new season being commissioned.
Yeah, I thought there. I thought I remembered seeing that. But I mean, listen, Harrison Ford is brilliant, is absolutely brilliant. And the characters are brilliant. The cameos by Michael J. Fox were outstanding, put in a completely proper place. But I just want them to dial back on the cutesy just a little bit, and focus a little bit more on the drama, if you will, which has always been part of shrinking. That's where I'm coming from.
Shrinking has always done a good job of funny what you're calling cutesy and some serious points. It's always done that pretty well. And so I kind of feel you're talking about shrinking how I talked about Ted Lasso, where part of it got a bit much for me, if you remember. I was a bit like, okay, I've got it. We've done this. And I feel like you've got to that point with shrinking.
Yeah, and listen, I'm putting most of it on the writers, and maybe you would say the same about Ted Lasso, that it was not the performances.
By the way, we love Bill Lawrence. If he wants to come on the show, he's very welcome.
Oh yeah, I'd love to debate it, because it just, and you bring up a really interesting point, because I think of it as the funny, or call it cutesy, whatever. The mix, the percentage of one to the other has been so good up to now. And that first episode just went way over the top, and the next couple, they was starting to trend down a little bit, but it was still just a little much. And then it got to a point where the mix was back to really good. So I don't want to discourage anyone from watching season 3 of Shrinking. Not at all. I just feel like if you feel the way I did, and feel like, oh, this has gone now over the top, give it time. You'll come back to where it should be.
I mean, I don't think a show like Shrinking ever needs hour-long episodes.
Yes.
35 to 40 minutes max. Because originally, am I remembering, season 1 was basically fairly tight 30-minute comedy slots.
I didn't look at it, but that was the way I remembered it, and that was kind of what I was expecting. And episode 1 this time went on and on and on.
Yeah, I mean, it put me off starting it, because I was like, I don't need an hour. I mean, with seasons 1 and 2 of Shrinking, you could watch multiple episodes back to back.
Yes.
Like,
if you were in control.
It was tight. It was moving. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sad. I'm pleased that you came back to it. I'm pleased that you think it's recovered. I think there is a general theme as well, and I'm very interested in your take on this. Do you think, we've always said, right, shows on Apple TV, they're pretty good at knowing when to end them. Do you think with some of the more popular shows, insert my point about Ted Lasso season 4 here, they are stringing them out a bit too much? Like, do we need season 4 of Shrinking?
Again, if the story is not concluded, the characters are not to a point where they're all riding off into the sunset. There are definite opportunities here to keep it going. So I ended up looking forward to it and seeing, okay. what could happen. Along the way this time, I had to get back into the caring it all about the characters. And after a while, just dropping one-liners constantly is like, okay, now I really don't care anymore. And
is the problem that you're grumpy and don't have a sense of humor?
I don't think so. I'm going to take that as a serious question. I don't think so, because I enjoyed the first few seasons and I enjoy comedies. But just after a while, you know what, Charlotte? Boy, I'm going to get emails for this. But I feel like the first episode was more appropriate to U.S. broadcast TV sitcoms right now, where there are very few interesting lines. There are very few plot points. It just feels like this constant thing of, this character is supposed to be this way, and so he's going to drop funny lines, from him, and somebody else is another way, and they're going to drop their funny lines. And it just seems like a vehicle for borderline stand-up, as opposed to a story. And that's what I always appreciated about Shrinking once I got into it, was that there was a story. Along with the one-liners. So again, that's my perception. There have been some very good
one-liners. Okay, interesting. I think, as I say, this is generally a symptom of what happens as shows go on. You get used to the characters, you get used to the format, and you kind of feel they kind of deliver what you think they expect to deliver. And sometimes there is quality in knowing when to stop and to end. I mean, I don't think we should have stopped at 2 seasons of Shrinking. I think season 2 was so good that we needed more of it.
Yes, agreed. But let me throw another idea out that just occurred to me, because we've talked about Slow Horses so often, and compare Slow Horses to Ted Lasso to Shrinking. Though the latter two have a story arc that continues over the time.
Mm-hmm.
Slow Horses, I guess, to be fair, it does too, but the story arc wraps up. At any time they could have.
A season is a season is a season.
Yeah, and here they keep going and going, and so maybe there's a small difference there that makes it more palatable. Or to your point, maybe it's just that not everybody is dropping one-liners, and because I'm grumpy and no fun, that that appeals to me more.
Oh dear, I'm never going to hear the end of it. No, I tell you what I think is a really serious reason for that difference. Never mind the different genres. One's a more kind of comedy, one is thriller. I think a key part of what you're describing is because Slow Horses and shows like it are based on books, which are distinct stories, even if there's characters that overlap. So, in particular, in Thriller and I'll try and remember how to speak English. Crime and thrillers. I think that is particular to that genre, which I read a lot of. That you might have a series of books that have like a recurring police officer and their side kicks or whatever, but each story is new. And I think you see that very much in Slow Horses because they are based on books, and obviously Shrinking and things like that are different. Now, go on.
Well, do you think any of it has to do with the fact that the Shrinking is U.S. based, Slow Horses is UK based? Now, Ted Lasso was UK based, but there was an American lead. Do you think that factors in any way?
Oh, I think you're much more schmaltzy than us. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
For sure. But I think it's hard to compare those two shows because they're such different genres. But I think, we did a whole show on it, and it was a great conversation about how the UK-based shows look and feel different on Apple TV to the US-based ones. And I do think that is a real thing, whether it's comedy or whatever else. Because I think that, which is kind of similar to Shrinking, again, it has a different vibe, doesn't it? I haven't sort of got into Trying, but I've seen clips and adverts and stuff, and it feels more like Shrinking than Slow Horses.
I have not gotten there, so no, I can't comment.
I'm just thinking more that would be equivalent. Anyway, jumping genre again, I started watching Monarch, which is a Godzilla spin-off. I really enjoyed it. I've watched the first 2 episodes. I keep trying to carve out some time to watch more because I've really enjoyed it. There's lots of things I like. This won't really do spoilers. I'm talking in terms of format. I really like the way it jumps in time, but it's, when shows jump back and forth in time and it's quite irritating and you're sort of struggling to keep up with it. I didn't feel that in the first 2 episodes of Monarch, where that's particularly important. The going back and forth in time is really important in the first 2 episodes of season 1. I thought they did that well. I like the characters. I just really enjoyed it. I liked how the story developed. I liked how the characters were brought together. I like then you've got Kurt Russell introduced towards the end of episode 2 and all things around that. This kind of feels funny to say about a monster series, but it felt realistic enough whilst having that sort of obvious fantasy kind of daft, different kind of monster superhero element to it as well. So I'm really pleased I started watching it. I enjoyed it.
So to be clear, you're talking right now about season 1. You have not started season 2.
No, I'm working my way through season 1 and really enjoying it.
Okay, yeah, because I too have not started season 2 yet. I was too
We'll come
busy.
back to that.
Well, I was too busy doing my homework and watching Shrinking, since you committed me to last time. But I listen. I think you expressed it very, very well. The realistic comment is spot on. What you may not be aware of, depending on whether you were a MonsterVerse fan from the movies or not, is how much of some of those backstories that they pull into it seamlessly, so that if you didn't watch those movies, you didn't feel like, what did I miss?
I think that's right.
Yeah, and
I'm not someone who's watched all those movies, and I didn't feel left out at all whilst doing my homework. I felt like you could just start it fresh. And you know how sometimes with the Marvel universe, you kind of feel like we're both joking about doing our homework, but you kind of feel with some of the Marvel universe now, it's got so big, you do have to do your homework. You can't settle down to a new season of a show until you've watched 20 movies. Yeah. I didn't feel like that with Monarch. I felt I could start, okay, it's Godzilla. I know that Godzilla is a monster. Go.
Yeah.
And that was it.
But it has that serious tone, that realistic tone, that it's not just, and I've said this a million places. When I first heard it, it's like, really? They're going to do a MonsterVerse thing? Because most of those movies have been, with no disrespect intended, either two monsters fighting or one monster destroying cities. And after a while, you can only see so much of that before you kind of become this. Watching Godzilla,
well, that is what
the Empire State Building is boring.
I have to say that is what put me off watching it originally, because I thought that's what it was. Until you advocated for it, that is what put me off watching it. And look, obviously, as it goes on, there are going to be those elements to it. Of course, there are. That's what people expect, right? But there is more to it. But it's also, there's more to it, but not in a kind of cliche. It didn't feel to me in a cliche way of it's trying to be too serious. For me, they've got the balance of the different elements pretty right so far.
And it's interesting that we've both used the same word or same words to describe my feelings about Shrinking, and what you're saying, your feelings about Monarch. That there is that balance. There is a percentage mix that works. And if it tips too much one way, it's going to go wrong. If it tips too much the other way, it's going to go wrong. And that is not an easy thing to do. And of course, for different audiences, that mix is going to be a bit different.
Yeah. And I don't want to do too many, I don't want to do spoilers. But there are, the way the family dynamics are developing, I think is interesting and very clever. I love how the show takes you around Tokyo. That was pretty cool. City I'd love to visit. When I was watching it, as you remember, Chuck, back in whatever it was, September, I was in Israel when there was the previous war between Israel and Iran, and spent, unfortunately, much of that trip running down into bomb shelters and the giant car park under the hotel that acted as a bomb shelter. And I have to say, I did have a little bit of a flashback when they're doing the sort of Godzilla drills and they head down into the metro station, don't they? When they're testing if Godzilla is coming. That did feel a little bit familiar, but thankfully, it struck a chord with me, which probably sounds silly given that people out in the Middle East live with this kind of thing more, but it did sort of have I did have a bit of a moment when watching those sequences.
No, I think that's a really interesting observation though, Charlotte, because it speaks to the realism of that experience. And I know we're talking about a MonsterVerse series, so but the idea of needing to seek shelter from an existential danger, and the way that you had to seek shelter versus the way it's portrayed in the movie or the series, really speaks to me because fortunately I've not had that experience. But you look at it and think, is that what it's really like? Or you just accept that that's what it's really like. To hear you indicate that it is just, I think, speaks to the quality of the filmmaking.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there was certainly no monsters when I was out there, but yeah, it's it's very interesting. I'm really pleased you made me watch it because I think it probably would have been one I would have glossed over in the same way you were saying, or maybe you'd have glossed over Shrinking. And I'm really compelled as the story goes on in season 2 as well, to kind of see how it happens. And the characters are quite engaging, right? I think that the central characters are engaging. There's one bit of a cliche. It was like, oh, this is quite obvious. And I think you know what I'm going to say. The sort of cool hacker girl hidden away in the city, right at the beginning of season 1. I was a bit like, yeah, I've seen this character plenty of times. But, that's maybe just a small unfair gripe.
I think it's a fair, but at some point you have to, after a while, all the cliches have been done so much that you have to start reusing them.
Yeah.
But again, I can't stress this enough, that this is not about the monsters. This is about the people living in a world where there are monsters, but it's about the people.
Yep.
And that's the part that I think it gets so lost just in the fact that Godzilla's name is invoked at all. That's what people are expecting. The wrong thing is what people are expecting.
Yeah, and another bit of the realism, well, I don't know if you think this, is particularly early on, there's the sequences in the jungle, right? Again, like you've got the sort of a young American soldier, blah, 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 blah. And that kind of felt, I don't know, it felt, it gets you thinking of, I don't know, maybe the Vietnam or whatever. It sort of, it's earlier than that. It's kind of Second World War, isn't it, those sequences? Because it's a grandmother. But again, it was a sense of realism with the additional monster element added on top, right?
Right, but not overdone.
Which bit, the monster or the realism?
The both. I mean, we're back to the mix discussion or the percentage discussion. Everything seems like it's a pretty good mix that doesn't take you out of it. That you're in that world, and I'm trying to think of a good example and I can't come up with one that would take you out and say, oh yeah, okay, this is a bit much. It's about as realistic as a MonsterVerse setting could be.
Yeah. But without being like, oh, we're being really deeply serious now. This is the really dark Batman movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Because, I mean, some of it is quite dark, right? Like, it is quite dark.
Absolutely.
The flashback sequences are dark, like.
Well, and some of the underlying themes get dark as well.
Yeah, it's very upsetting, some of it.
Yeah, as you learn more about what's going on. So, yeah, folks, go take it. Do what Charlotte did. Take 2 episodes, and if you don't agree with what we're saying, then it's probably not for you. But I think you're going to be surprised. A lot of you who don't think it's for you will find that you'll enjoy it.
And also, it doesn't particularly start with that crash bang wallop monster stuff. No, I really enjoyed it. I'm keeping watching. I'm going to go through season 2 as well. I'm really pleased that I settled into it.
Good. Well, I'm delighted. I'm delighted because, it's been interesting as we've done this show. You've advocated for some things, and it's like, okay, Charlotte, I'll go and watch it, like Shrinking, and really got into it. And, and as I recall, you had not even considered The Gorge that we talked about.
No.
And so,
you need to watch that. That's on the.
And this brings the whole discussion full circle back to the Vietnam documentary. You need to talk to people about the Apple TV series and figure out who likes what, because there's some really great stuff out there that just doesn't necessarily get its due.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times we're going to have this discussion. I don't know how long it's going to take Apple to fix this stuff, because it's, they talk about wanting to take media seriously. They put out work of the quality that shows they're taking it seriously, and then loads of it disappears into the ether. I don't quite understand it. But anyway, end on a positive. Monarch is good. Shrinking is good, even if some of it is annoying.
According to Chuck.
According to Chuck, yeah. Okay, I think that's fair enough. Well, we've got through a lot there.
Yep, and it's always fun to discuss, debate, analyze, and then get talked into another show.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've got a lot to watch even this week, because we'll be back in a couple of weeks, won't we?
We'll see what happens between now and then.
Where can people keep up with you in the interim?
MacVoices.com is where you will find everything that I do. We are presently doing some of the Road to Macstock shows. I'll be headed to NAB shortly, and you'll be seeing some content coming back from that. And on all the socials, you can find me as @ChuckJoyner. Charlotte?
Wonderful. Head over to theedition.net for all the newsletter, other podcasting, and blog posts that I write. If you want me on social media, I'm @Charlotte A. Henry across most social platforms. My latest book, Streaming Wars, is out now, and you get it wherever you are as well. Well, great fun, Chuck, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.